So the other day, Miesha Tate announced she was making her competitive return to MMA after a 5-year hiatus. Today, we're going to take a look at why she's coming back and her possible matchups and opportunities. So, let's take a trip down memory lane to where Miesha Tate retired 5 years ago at UFC 205 on the same night McGregor would become double champ. It feels like a lifetime ago in MMA considering where McGregor is now. That night, she fought Raquel Pennington in what was rather a weird fight. Tate didn't seem to have that desire to win anymore, that tenacity she was famed for. She said as much to her cornerman. It's not hard to understand why she lost that drive. Just 4 months prior, she was the women's champion, having beat Holly Holm in stunning fashion in March, the epitome of who Miesha Tate was as a fighter. However, she would drop the belt to Amanda Nunes, who hadn't yet become the destroyer of worlds we know today. Though because of how game and dogged Miesha is, it really made everyone take notice when Nunes demolished her. So, why has she decided to come back? Well, it could be monetary reasons. Before the pandemic, she had been the vice president at one championship, but because of the pandemic, her duties had been reduced, so there's that. When she did step back from competition, one of her longtime coaches, Brian Caraway, was also her boyfriend. That relationship would later end, so maybe playing armchair psychiatrist, that had a factor too. Or, as I would like to believe, she just had the competitive itch. When she announced her comeback, I had to do a double take, because I thought Miesha was far older than what she is. She's currently 34, which, funnily enough, I thought that's how old she was when she retired. I thought she was at the end of her prime, but realistically, she would have been possibly entering her prime years at around 30. Well, that's kind of difficult to quantify. Because she was such a big figure in women's MMA, she seems older than what she is.
Anybody that wins a championship in the UFC in this day and age especially is absolutely amazing. I mean, being a part of that, making it to New York, what she's done in the women's division. I mean, she started when there was no chance. So, you have a true pioneer in women's MMA that went all the way to the top. She's at a spot where she's talking retirement, and we'll see where that actually leads in time.
She's arguably the second most famous women's MMA fighter, duking it out with Gina Carano for that second place spot. Number 1 obviously being Ronda Rousey. To put into terms how popular she was, when she fought Ronda the second time, it was a pretty pro-Miesha crowd. She was the babyface, to use a wrestling term, in that matchup, and
the chant of
Ronda
Miesha
lets her up.
well, Ronda was resoundingly booed when she turned down the handshake that Miesha offered.
Wow, she went to shake Ronda's hand and Ronda walked away from her. Wow.
At the time, Miesha had fought a who's who of women's MMA in the bantamweight division, and that's probably what the issue is with today's division. It's pretty stagnant. The advantage of Miesha returning would be that you bring a bit more star power to the bantamweight division. You have Nunes, Holm, and now Tate. You have a pro veteran who can either climb the ladder for one last shot at the belt, or you can build stars off of her name. Tate returns against the retiring Marion Reneau in July, which is kind of weird when you think about it, but the perfect match. The fight will be pivotal for Tate. If she still has it, this will show us. Her fighting style will be a good fit for the division. Tate has great takedowns and a wrestling ability and could easily climb to the top 5 of the division. Do I think she beats Nunes? Absolutely not. But that's no slight on Tate. Nunes is just that good. Jermaine Durandame though? Well, I think she stands a good chance of smothering her with her wrestling game. Holm? I think Holm has vastly improved since their last fight and would be a problem for Miesha. She's strong and has great movement and probably learned the lesson from last time and will keep the distance. She's also developed a great clinch game and could possibly overpower Tate. The only other real problem for Tate would be Juliana Pena, another grappling heavy fighter that she could struggle with. Otherwise, Tate's wrestling game should dominate most of the striker-heavy division, though Ketlen Vieira's size could be an issue. She's not the most active fighter, and unless she catches Tate early, then I think she loses that fight. In all, this is an intriguing return and could breathe new life into the division by bringing in another name that people will be interested in watching. Who knows if there's a certain trilogy to be made with a bitter rival, Ronda Rousey, down the line.
I'd buy that for $1.
I'd like to say a massive thank you if you managed to make it to the end of the video, and whether you guys think Tate stands as good of a chance as I think she does in this women's division? Let me know in the comments below, because I'd be curious to see some more thoughts on this.